Have you ever walked into Sunday morning as a pastor and thought, this feels more like a concert than a congregation? I mean, think about it for a second. Maybe you have midweek rehearsals. You most certainly have a Sunday morning run through. You might use something like Planning Center to organize your service. There are lighting cues and mic levels, and there are all sorts of other things that I don't really know enough about to speak intelligently, okay? But the pressure to perform in worship, that is one of the most common tensions that pastors face. I mean, the lights, the music, the live stream, it can all feel like the spotlight is on us instead of on God. And while nobody sets out to make worship a show, the line between kind of excellence and performance can get blurry really fast. I hear pastors say all the time, like we want worship to be excellent, but I'm worried we've turned it into a production. I hear that all the time. We want our worship to be excellent, but we don't want it to be performative. That's a fine line, right? I mean, we should desire excellence in the church experience for lots of reasons. I mean, people notice excellence, and they notice when things aren't excellent. Excellent. We live actually in the experience economy now. We're in the service economy. It's given way to the experience economy, which explains, by the way, why lots of places have gone out of business because they offered good services but with bad experiences. Well, people who are walking into our churches are living, breathing every day the experience economy. So when the church service experience isn't excellent, they notice. People notice when chords are missed in songs. They notice when the mic cuts out mid worship set. When the lyric slides are a half slide behind. I mean, people notice these things. And these things are distracting for people. They distract people from the intended purpose of the gathering, which is Jesus, by the way. And because they notice these things, you know what we do, right? We begin to feel a lot of pressure. And excellence, I'm a big fan of this. Excellence is a good thing. Excellence whispers, do your best because God is worthy. But on the other hand, performance kind of whispers, do your best so people will be impressed. That's the big difference between excellence and performance. One is about God's worthiness, one is about our impressiveness. One leads to worship, the other just leads to pressure. And if worship starts feeling a little bit more kind of like a Broadway show than, the book of Psalms, we might have crossed into some dangerous territory. So, what do we do about that? This is a weekly pressure that we all face. If you're a pastor, we all face this every week. So, what do we do about this? Well, the answer is not to lower the bar. And I'm not calling anyone out. I don't know any of you personally. Well, I probably do know a lot of you personally, but I don't know everybody personally. So I do know this. A lot of times churches, because they can't be excellent, they can be, by the way, but they don't think they can be, or they don't want to work, just be honest, they don't want to work hard enough to be excellent. They call it authentic. And they say, well, we don't want to be performative. So we're instead, I say, what, being bad, right? So we don't want to do that. Like the answer isn't to lower the bar. The answer is to reframe the bar, to reframe excellence, and here's the key, as an offering. See, performance is a pressure, but excellence is an offering. In Psalms 33:3, okay, let me just read what the psalmist wrote, okay? Sing to him a new song, and this is so cool. Play skillfully and shout for joy. You see the balance there? Skillful and joyful. See, excellence is rooted in authenticity, but not in applause. And we're encouraged to be skillful, to be excellent, but to also be joyful, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be real. So what do we do with that on a Sunday, right? Let me give you some things, very practical, okay? 5 practical ways to keep worship excellence without becoming performative or driven by performance. Okay, here's the first one, 5 things. 1, check your why. We should probably check our motivation for everything we do in life. But when it comes to this one, check your why. Before every rehearsal, before every service, remind your team, okay, this is worship, not a show. We want it to be excellent, but it isn't a performance. You're not playing a gig, you're leading people to Jesus. The why sets the tone for everything that's going to happen. And you know that organizationally. We see great leaders understand this. This is true for worship too. We have to check the why before we begin to perform, lead the music. Okay, number two, aim for skill, not for spotlight. Okay, skillful musicianship and vocalist, they do matter. Okay, they create space for people to engage. And you have been in churches where the musicians were not skillful, or the vocalist, the lead singer, the worship leader did not lead with excellence, with skill. That disengages people. It distracts people. It's not excellence. A lack of excellence always does that, right? But when the spotlight kind of shifts to the performer instead of the savior, we may be also missing the point too. So again, lowering the bar would be saying, well, but they love Jesus. They can't sing, but we're going to let them lead, right? I mean, we don't want to do that. We don't want to lower the bar. We want to reframe the bar. We want to have people who are skillful in their leadership or in their musical abilities. But we also want people who understand they're not the spotlight, that Jesus is. Get those two things right. It's skillful and joyful. That's a powerful combination. Okay, number three, we really do, and this is similar, but we want to value presence over perfection. People don't walk away remembering a flawless transition. Okay, no one ever leaves the worship set and says, God changed my life today, that lighting cue. They don't say that, okay? What they remember is sensing God's presence. That's really what changes lives. And so we want to value presence over perfection. Now, again, does that mean we lower the bar? Absolutely not. But it does mean we raise the bar for presence. Okay, number four, celebrate faithfulness, not flawlessness. Okay, encourage your team for showing up on time, for early, for serving, for pointing people to Jesus. Even every once in a while, if a note or a cue is missed, the culture that you celebrate is the culture that you're going to end up reproducing. Here's what I have found, at least everywhere I have ever led before, including lots of years, 13 years as a lead pastor at a church. In the beginning, I felt like our musicians, and we paid them, by the way, okay? So just full transparency. So we paid our musicians in the beginning, not a ton, but as we got a lot bigger, we paid a little more. But it felt like they were standing on an X, and it felt like they were playing a gig. And if they were flawless, they would get invited back. So what do you think they were focused on? They were focused on the notes, not the people. They were focused on the cues, not on the Savior. And that wasn't leading to a great worship experience. So we began to shift that culture. We began to celebrate their faithfulness, celebrate their love for Jesus, celebrate their joy, celebrate their servant's heart for what they were doing. That culture began to make a huge shift in our entire church, not just in our worship culture. And here's the last one, number five. Make it better every week. This is about excellence, okay? Progress really matters, but with the right motivation. So improvement should really be like an act of gratitude, right? Not a bid for more applause, right? So we want to make it better every week. I mean, every week we want to evaluate worship. We want to evaluate the musicians, evaluate the song choices, evaluate the transitions. I mean, it's good to do that because excellence is an offering. Excellence matters. However, we're doing it out of that heart. I work with a lot of churches, and that's my job, right? I'm a pastoral coach, a consultant for churches. I get to work with a lot of churches. And, because of that, I see a lot of worship sets. I am there a lot of times to evaluate with the pastor and to kind of experience their church like a guest and help them begin to think differently. I also do a lot of preaching when I'm traveling. And so I get to experience the church from really behind the curtain and see the culture from the green room all the way in front of the curtain. So I see a lot of worship sets. It is painfully obvious that many churches are trying to not be performative. And I applaud that. I don't think that the performative worship I don't think it's a great thing, maybe ever. It definitely isn't a great thing in 2025. So I don't think that's the goal. But here's what I do see in some places. In an effort to reduce the feeling of performance, and I kind of mentioned this a little earlier, some churches reduce the quality. And when they do that, they also end up reducing the joy and they reduce the energy. The best worship experiences that I have experienced during all my traveling and consulting and preaching is when a church can reframe excellence as an offering. They may not use that exact phrase, but that's what they're doing. Like the music doesn't get worse when we do that. It actually gets a lot better. And the reason is that the pressure is lifted. The musicians and the team and the production volunteers, they stop trying to impress and instead they start worshiping again themselves from the stage. The churches that do this best, they don't just have people on a stage leading worship, they have people on the stage worshiping as a leader. It's a very different way to think about it. So here's my challenge. This Sunday for you, here's the challenge. Very simple. Tell your worship team, maybe just say this. Today, excellence is our gift back to God. Perfection, that's not the win, okay? But His presence is. And the more excellent we can be, the more His presence can be felt. Let that become your worship culture. Like lead with presence, not performance. And you're going to find that the excellence is going to just rise naturally because the pressure gets lifted. Listen, as a pastor, you shouldn't have to choose between excellence and authenticity. You just have to choose the right why. So make excellence an offering, not the performance. That's really how you reduce the pressure and keep worship what it was always intended to be.